Campbellton, Florida, 1963. Anybody know where Campbellton is? Up in the Panhandle, sort of near Gainesville. A little girl was born to a single mom. Everything was going fine until her husband discovered that she was pregnant. He blamed her and shamed her by saying this fiasco was all her fault. He had nothing to do with it after all. It was not even for sure that it was his baby, to be perfectly honest. And so it was his baby, but he left and skipped town, never to be heard from again, no goodbyes, no emotional support, certainly no child support, and he would never be heard from again. He was simply gone. Shirley, the mom, got a job. Actually, it was a second job. She already had one job working as a beautician in the local beauty shop, but she got another job working nights at the Little General. That was a convenience store that used to be pretty well known around Florida. She was scared to death every night when they left her alone to run that store, but it did not stop her. She just had to make enough money to pay for her and that baby's rent and to make sure and that soon-to-be baby were well taken care of. One Saturday morning, while she was doing Betty Johnson's Pentecostal hairdo at the beauty shop, she felt a strange sensation and suddenly realized she was going into labor. She screamed, and Betty Johnson almost fell out of the chair. Everyone surrounded her just the only way that a bunch of old Southern women can do, shouting out orders and praying to Jesus for help and trying to figure out what to do next. Suddenly, Shirley's best friend Wanda comes running over and throws Shirley into the back seat of her car and speeds off to that little tiny hospital in Gainesville, Florida, which is not too far away. Her labor progressed really fast, and before she knew what had happened, here was this beautiful, blonde, baby girl lying on her chest. She looked at this baby and immediately loved her in a way she had never experienced before, with a love that only a mother could understand, and without thinking about it, she breathed these words quietly. Tammy Sue, you and I will be together for the rest of our lives. I'm going to be the best mama a little girl has ever had. And God help anybody that ever messes with you. Southern mothers know that. I'm your mama, and you're my little girl. Nothing will ever change now. Tammy Sue grew quickly, and before anybody could believe it, she was already in the first grade. She did well in school and made lots of friends, and her teachers liked her. In junior high, she tried out for the cheerleading squad and made it. Shirley was so proud, and she felt bad that she had to miss so many of those wonderful events while she was working those two jobs and could rarely get off to attend any of them. And so every night when she got home, she kissed Tammy Sue, even if she was already asleep, and she told her how much she loved her because she was so proud. One night, when Tammy Sue was in the 11th grade, Shirley came home and immediately knew something was wrong. She had been worried about Tammy Sue all day, and all through that shift at the Little General, and as soon as she walked in the door of the apartment, she knew that something was wrong and bad wrong, because when she looked at Tammy Sue, something was different. Tammy Sue had tears running down her face. Her clothes were dirty and her lip was swollen, and she would not say a word about what happened. She wouldn't talk, she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't drink, she wouldn't do anything. For God's sake, she wouldn't even take a shower. And this was bad, really bad, totally different. What had happened? Shirley hardly slept all night. But she did notice that Tammy Sue went into her bedroom somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning. When they woke up for breakfast, Tammy Sue's eyes were dull and weary. She had showered, but her hair was just a wreck, and she wouldn't let Shirley fix it for her. She left about her normal time for school, and Shirley immediately called the school asking what had happened. What happened to my little girl yesterday? Something different that nobody knew. The one thing Shirley remembered later was that from that moment on, nothing, and I mean nothing, would ever be the same again. About a month later, Shirley arrived home late again one night from work and discovered that Tammy Sue wasn't there. She searched the house all up and down and all around. No Tammy Sue. She called Wanda, remember her best friend that got her to the hospital, to see if she'd seen or heard from Tammy Sue. No Tammy Sue there either. She called one of the teachers at the school and asked if Tammy Sue had problems at school that day. No, the teacher said. As a matter of fact, she never showed up at school that day. Shirley panicked. She called the police. They hadn't heard from her either, but she couldn't file a missing persons report because, after all, that's just what adolescent girls do, right? And she'll be back by the morning. And so she waited, and she waited, and she drove all over town, and she couldn't find Tammy Sue, and she waited that 24-hour period and called the police again, and they said, well, why'd you wait so long to call us? Well, she was waiting for days like this, and everywhere she went, she looked for Tammy Sue, and she went to the school, and she went to the grocery store, and she went to the park, and to the drive-in, and McDonald's, and everywhere that kids hung out, and there was no Tammy Sue. This went on for weeks and months, and before she knew it, for a year. And the fact just was that Tammy Sue was gone, really gone. And Shirley was devastated. Tammy Sue was the perfect purpose for her whole life. Now what? She thought. Tammy Sue couldn't face what those three boys from the football team had done to her any longer. After what they'd done and what they had put her through, and then to have the nerve to talk about it all over school and to blame her for it. So Tammy Sue left that day. She left home, and instead of going to school, she hitchhiked from Hamilton to Marietta, where I-10 comes through, and from there to New Orleans. She had no idea what she would do when she got to New Orleans. She'd heard all these wonderful, fun stories about the French Quarter and how much cool stuff there was there and how much fun it was. But she never even thought about how she was going to sleep. She just knew it would all work out. So she just couldn't imagine having to stand on the street corner and to sell herself to allow strange men to do to her what those filthy boys had done that afternoon at school. She didn't know how difficult it would be to find food, and never imagined she would find herself competing with the rats in the dumpsters for something to eat. She was filthy, and she often wished she could go home and take a shower in her mother's house and have a hot meal and some of her mama's biscuits. She could never go back now. Or could she? One night she wrote a simple note. Quote, Mama, I'm coming home. Maybe she could work for her mother now. Maybe she could take some shifts at the Little General. Maybe she could sweep up hair at the beauty shop. Maybe she could clean the house or do the dishes or take care of the yard. There must be something she could do just to get a good meal and a bed to sleep in. After all, anything would be better than this. When Shirley got the letter, she fainted. She began cleaning the house and planting flowers. She made cakes and cookies and pies and put them in the freezer so they'd be ready. She made a sign and nailed it on the oak tree in the front yard that said, "Welcome home," as she tied yellow ribbons to everything. After the neighbors saw all this, they got worried. Who is she kidding? That girl's never coming home. She's been gone for too long. After all this time, why doesn't she just give it up? Poor Shirley, she's lost it. But I'm saying this in love. Shirley took off from both of her jobs. She sat on the front porch watching and waiting. She thought she saw her, but then it wasn't Tammy Sue. So she watched and waited some more, and she watched and she prayed to Jesus to bring that sweet little girl home. And then on May 8th, at about 10 o'clock in the morning, she spotted a woman way off in the distance. Filthy blonde hair, thin as skin and bones, back bent over, with eyes looking at the ground. But Shirley recognized that walk. She recognized that pace, that beat. So she ran to the sidewalk and looked again, and she just knew it. So she started running down the road and screaming, "Tammy Sue, Tammy Sue, Tammy Sue, my baby, she's come home again." And she reached out and threw her arms around that dirty body and kissed her all over and over again. And she escorted Tammy Sue into the house and into her room, which had not changed a bit. She said, "Welcome home, little girl. I love you. Welcome home." While Tammy Sue was in the shower, Shirley got out all those cakes and pies, and she called everyone all over town and said, "Get over here now! Tammy Sue is home." She made coffee and sweet tea and biscuits. She put on a little music, and by the time Tammy Sue was dressed, the house was full of people and full of excitement. Shirley put her arms around Tammy Sue and called everyone to attention, and she said, "This is my little girl. She's been gone for a long time. But today she's come back again. Welcome home, Tammy Sue. Welcome home." And so why spend so much time, 3 times now, on a parable such as this? For one purpose only. And that is to say, no matter where you've gone, no matter how far away you've gone, no matter how thin and emaciated and how dirty your hair might be, there's still a place for you. There is a place where a loving heavenly parent holds arms wide open, saying, "Welcome home. I love you. Welcome home." Just like Shirley's arms for Tammy Sue, God's arms are open for you. And on that day, when you decide to walk home, Jesus will begin making pies and cakes and biscuits and sweet tea. And then throw, as I said to the children, a heavenly party, during which he will say, "This is my boy. This is my girl. He's mine. She's mine. Welcome home."